Have you ever been in a situation where you know exactly what you want to say? I mean, the words are right there in your head.
Oh, yeah.
You've studied them. You've practiced them, in the shower. You know the grammar perfectly. But then the moment comes to actually open your mouth. Maybe you're ordering a coffee or raising your hand in a meeting, and poof, it's gone.
It's a total system failure.
Exactly. The palms start sweating, your heart starts beating like a drum against your ribs, and your mind just goes completely blank. It's like someone walked into the data center of your brain and just pulled the plug.
It is a terrifying feeling.
Right.
And if you're learning a second language, it feels like hitting a brick wall.
Mm-hmm.
You do all the homework, you memorize the rules, but when it's time to actually perform, the machinery just jams.
It's incredibly frustrating because it feels like a competence issue. You think, I must not have studied enough, or maybe I'm just not good at languages. But today, we're going to find out that it's not really about your study habits at all.
Got it all.
We are doing a deep dive into a really fascinating 3-part series from a channel called Daily English Dive, hosted by 2 English teachers, Sophie and Jack.
And what really stands out about this source material is that they aren't just giving you a list of phrases to memorize. They aren't saying, oh, just practice more. They're digging into the machinery of why we freeze.
Right.
They look at the biology of fear, the psychology of perception, and they provide some really actionable, almost like mind-hacking strategies to get past it.
Yes. So the mission for this deep dive is to move from fear to connection. We're going to look at why your brain thinks a simple grammar mistake is a life-threatening event, which sounds dramatic, but it's basically true, and how you can essentially trick your brain into calming down.
And just a quick note on the sources before we start. Sophie and Jack designed this specifically for beginner to pre-intermediate learners, so it's very accessible. So we're going to try to mirror that clarity today. We want to keep this jargon-free and straightforward because, honestly, these concepts are universal. Whether you're learning English, Spanish, or just trying to be more confident at a dinner party, this stuff applies to you.
Okay, let's start with the biology, because I think this is the most validating part of the research. The source opens with a confession from Jack, one of the hosts. Now, this guy is an English teacher.
Right.
He records for a living. You'd think he's a professional speaker who shouldn't be nervous.
And yet, he admits that right before they hit record, even after all these years, he still gets the social chill.
Which I love. It proves that anxiety isn't about competence. You can be an expert and still feel that physical flutter.
Precisely. The sources identify the root cause of this, and it's not your vocabulary level. It's a tiny, almond-shaped part of the brain called the amygdala.
The amygdala.
Yeah.
Sophie calls this the brain's security guard.
That is the perfect analogy. Think of the amygdala as a very dedicated, maybe slightly paranoid security guard who works the night shift in your head. Its only job is to keep you alive.
Okay.
It is constantly scanning the environment for danger. If it sees a threat, it smashes the panic button and triggers the fight or flight response.
Which makes total sense if you're, say, hiking in the woods and you see a bear. You want that security guard to panic. You want the adrenaline.
Of course.
But why does the security guard pull the fire alarm just because I'm about to use the wrong verb tense in a meeting? Why is conjugating a verb treated like a bear?
That is the million-dollar question. To understand that, we have to look at human history. Sophie explains that 50,000 years ago, if you heard a noise in the grass, it was probably a tiger.
Right. Run or die.
Immediate physical danger. But back then, social rejection was also a death sentence. Humans are pack animals. If your tribe kicked you out because you said something wrong or offended the chief or they just didn't like you, you would be left alone in the wilderness.
And you wouldn't survive on your own. No food, no protection.
Exactly. So fast forward to today. Your modern brain still holds that ancient programming. To your amygdala, social rejection, making a mistake, looking foolish, people laughing at you, registers as the exact same level of threat as a tiger attack.
So when I freeze up ordering a sandwich because I forgot the word for mustard, my brain literally thinks I'm about to die.
Essentially, yes. It's a false alarm. It's a 50,000-year-old system trying to navigate a modern coffee shop conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And this leads to what the source calls the amygdala hijack.
The hijack. Okay, this explains the mind-going blank phenomenon, right? Because that's the part I hate the most. It's not just that I'm nervous. It's that I actually feel, well, stupider.
You aren't becoming stupider, you're being censored. When the security guard, the amygdala, panics, it screams, danger. And it actually shuts down power to the prefrontal cortex.
Which is the CEO of the brain.
Exactly. It handles logic, planning, complex thought, and crucially, Language.
So the security guard knocks out the CEO?
Effectively, yes. The security guard thinks, we don't need to conjugate verbs right now. We need to run. It diverts all your energy, your blood flow, your oxygen away from the thinking brain and sends it to your muscles and your heart.
Wow.
That is why you can't remember simple words like umbrella or yesterday when you're nervous. The part of your brain that holds that information has literally been taken offline.
That is so validating. It means I'm not broken. My CEO is just locked out of the office.
Exactly. Your brain is trying to save you. It's just confused about what it's saving you from.
So the obvious question is, how do we get the CEO back in charge? How do we tell the security guard to stand down? Because I can't just tell myself, calm down. That has never worked.
No. Telling yourself to calm down usually makes it worse. Sophie mentions a really interesting hack called affect labeling. This is a technique backed by some serious research from UCLA.
Okay, how does it work?
Well, think about your instinct when you feel fear. Usually you try to fight it. You tell yourself, stop it, don't be nervous, be cool.
Right. Don't let them see you sweat.
Exactly. But fighting the emotion keeps the amygdala active. It keeps the focus on the danger. Affect labeling is different. You simply name the emotion. You say to yourself, either in your head or even out loud, I am feeling anxious right now, or my heart is beating fast.
It sounds too simple to actually work. Why does just saying, I am anxious, help?
It comes back to the CEO. The act of labeling requires language. It requires logic. To find the word anxious and apply it to your state, you have to engage the prefrontal cortex.
Oh, I see. You're forcing the brain to switch gears.
Yes. By consciously naming the feeling, you are forcing energy back from the emotional center to the logical center. You are waking up the CEO. You're literally talking your brain back online.
That is a great tool. It's like a reboot sequence. So step one is to calm the biology. But once the heart rate is down, we still have to deal with the psychology. Because even if I'm calm, I still worry about what people are thinking.
And this is where we run into what they call the spotlight effect.
Oh, I suffer from this big time. This is the feeling that everyone is staring at you, waiting for you to mess up, right?
Precisely. Sophie describes it as feeling like there is a giant, bright stage light shining only on you. Every hesitation, every mispronounced word feels like it's being broadcast on a jumbo screen.
You feel like the center of the universe in a really bad way.
But I assume the research says that's not true.
It's completely false. Psychological research shows that everyone else is in their own spotlight. They are worried about their own messy hair or what they just said or, what they're going to have for lunch. They aren't analyzing your grammar.
It's main character syndrome. We all think we're the main character in the movie.
But to everyone else, we're just an extra in the background. And there's another layer to this called the illusion of transparency.
What's that?
This one is huge for language learners. We often feel like our anxiety is transparent. We think everyone can see our heart beating through our shirt or see the panic in our eyes or hear the tremor in our voice.
Right. You feel like a drum is beating in your chest, so you assume everyone else hears the drum.
But the source points out that to the outside world, you usually just look like a person sitting in a chair. Maybe a little quiet, maybe a little thoughtful, but certainly not on the verge of a breakdown.
So your internal experience is a Category 5 hurricane, but the external reality is a light breeze.
Exactly. And understanding that your fear is invisible gives you a lot of power. You don't have to work so hard to hide it because nobody sees it anyway.
Before we move to the specific strategies, there's one clarification in the source I thought was really important, because I think I've been guilty of confusing these two things. The difference between introversion and social anxiety.
Oh, yes. People mix these up all the time.
Sophie clarifies that introversion is about energy. Introverts recharge by being alone. They might choose to be quiet because they enjoy it. They're happy on the sidelines just observing.
Okay. So they aren't scared. They're just chilling.
Exactly.
Oh.
Social anxiety, on the other hand, is about fear. It's wanting to join the conversation but being too scared to do so. It's feeling a barrier between you and the connection you want.
That's such a key distinction. So you're not broken if you're quiet. You might just be protecting your energy. But if you're standing there wishing you could speak, but feeling like your throat is closed up, that's where we need these strategies.
Right. And the sources break this down into classroom and workplace scenarios, which I think covers most people's needs.
Let's start with the classroom. The fear there is often that awkward silence with a fellow student. The teacher says, turn to your partner in practice, and you both just stare at each other in terror.
Yeah. And the advice here is to leverage shared identity. You're all learners. You're all in the same boat. And specifically, Sophie suggests bonding over a shared struggle.
What does that look like?
Well, psychology tells us that people bond faster over a shared complaint or a challenge than a shared success. So instead of trying to impress them with how good your English is, you say something like, wow, that grammar lesson was really hard, wasn't it?
I like that. It lowers the stakes immediately. You're not trying to be the teacher's pet. You're just commiserating.
Exactly. It invites the other person to say, oh my God, yes, I didn't understand a word of it. And suddenly you have a connection. You're allies against the difficult grammar.
Now, for the workplace, there is a tip that completely blew my mind. It's called the Benjamin Franklin effect.
This is such a fascinating bit of psychology.
The name alone makes me curious. What does Benjamin Franklin have to do with my office anxiety?
So think about the standard advice. We often think that to get people to like us at work, we should be helpful, perfect, and never be a burden. We fear that asking for help makes us look weak or incompetent.
Right. If I ask where the paper is or how to use the printer, they'll think I'm an idiot and I shouldn't have been hired.
But the Benjamin Franklin effect proves the exact opposite. When you ask someone for a small favor like, how does this coffee machine work? Or could I borrow a pen? It actually makes them like you more.
Wait, hold on. Making them do work for me makes them like me. That seems completely backwards. How does that even work?
It's about cognitive dissonance. When someone helps you, their brain has to explain why they did it. Their brain thinks, I am helping this person, therefore I must like them, I must trust them, they must be worth helping.
That is wild. So they retroactively decide they like you just to justify the favor.
Exactly. It builds rapport, it signals trust.
So asking for help is actually a relationship building tool.
As long as it's a small, functional favor, don't ask them to do your entire project for you.
Right. It's not going to work.
That will definitely annoy them. But asking for clarity on a deadline or how a machine works creates a social bridge. It makes you relatable, human, and paradoxically more likable.
I'm definitely going to try that. I usually suffer in silence because I don't want to be a bother.
Yeah.
Now, another problem I have, and I think a lot of learners have, is that when I'm speaking, I'm constantly monitoring myself.
Oh, yeah.
I'm thinking, is my accent okay? Was that the right tense? Did I sound stupid?
The source calls this internal focus.
Yeah.
Internal focus is a crash waiting to happen. Because you're trying to run the software, which is speaking, while simultaneously debugging the code, which is analyzing yourself. The brain can't handle it. The processing power just isn't there. You choke because you're over-processing.
So what's the solution? Because it's hard to just stop thinking.
The solution from cognitive behavioral therapy, which Sophie and Jack highlight, is to switch to external focus.
This is the technique where you distract yourself, right?
Yes. Sophie suggests giving your brain a simple task to get it out of your own head. Count the other person's eye color. Notice the fabric of their shirt. Listen to the specific words they use like a detective.
So instead of worrying about my words, I'm focusing entirely on their words.
Because we have a limited attention budget. If you spend 90% of your attention on observing the outside world, you only have 10% left to worry about your anxiety. You literally crowd out the fear.
I love the idea of crowding out the fear. It's like filling a room with furniture so there's no space for the monster. Okay, let's level up to the final boss, as Jack calls it.
Small talk with strangers.
The absolute worst. This is hard because there is no structure. In a meeting, there's an agenda. In a class, there's a lesson. With a stranger at a bus stop, anything goes. It's the Wild West.
It is the hardest part. But the sources bring up a concept called the liking gap, which might make it a little easier.
This one made me feel a lot better. What is the liking gap?
Research from Harvard and Yale shows that after two strangers talk, both people usually walk away thinking, I like them, but they probably found me boring.
So we both leave the conversation thinking we failed.
Yes, there is a gap between how much we like the other person and how much we think they liked us. The reality is, people almost always like you more than you think they do.
So rule number 1, assume they like you. That takes the pressure off. But what do we actually say? I hate talking about the weather. It feels so pointless. Yes, it is raining. We both know it's raining. Why are we saying it?
But here is the shift. Sophie explains that small talk isn't about information exchange. It's what linguists call phatic communication, or sometimes social grooming.
Like monkeys picking bugs off each other.
Exactly like that. It's a safety test. When you say nice weather today, you aren't reporting the weather. You're not a meteorologist. You are signaling, I am friendly. I see you. Are we safe to talk? It's a primal way of establishing connection.
Okay, so the weather is a valid bridge. It's just testing the waters. But once we're on the bridge, how do we keep the conversation alive? The source warns against the "I am fine" trap.
The "I am fine" trap is fatal. It happens when someone asks, "How are you?" and you just autopilot to "I am fine, thank you."
Which is grammatically correct. It's what we learned in textbook lesson 1.
It is perfectly correct.
Yep.
But socially, it is a dead end. It gives the other person nothing to work with. It shuts the door. If I ask, "How are you?" and you say, "Fine," where do I go from there? Nowhere.
So what's the fix?
The strategy is called answer plus one. You give your answer, "I'm good," plus one tiny detail.
So instead of just "I'm good," I say, "I'm good. I just had a really great cup of coffee."
Perfect. Now the other person has a hook. They can ask, "Oh, where did you get the coffee?" Or "I need a coffee too." You've opened the door for them. You've given them a gift of a conversation topic.
It seems so small, but it changes the whole dynamic. And if you need to start the conversation yourself.
The source suggests using social anchors.
What is a social anchor?
A social anchor is simply something in the shared environment that you can both see. It stops you from asking intrusive personal questions too early. Instead of asking, "Where do you live?" which is kind of creepy, you comment on the long line at the bus stop or the cake in the display case.
You anchor the conversation to the immediate reality. That cake looks amazing.
All right. And there's a specific grammar trick mentioned here too, question tags.
This is the "isn't it" thing.
Yes. Ending your sentence with, "Isn't it?"
Yeah.
Or, right. For example, "The bus is late today, isn't it?" It's an explicit invitation for the other person to agree. It makes it socially very easy for them to respond. It's much harder to ignore a question tag than a statement.
It's like holding out a hand. Now, we've talked about starting conversations, but the source notes that a lot of anxiety actually comes from not knowing how to stop them.
The exit fear. This is huge. People avoid starting a chat because they are afraid of being trapped in it forever.
I've definitely felt that. I don't want to get stuck talking to someone for 20 minutes when my bus is coming or I need to get back to my desk, so I just don't say hello.
The Daily English Dive hosts offer a great 3-step formula for a graceful exit. It's a way to leave without feeling rude.
Let's hear it.
It's simple. Signal, reason, and wish.
Okay, break that down.
First, the signal. It was great chatting with you. This tells the person the interaction is ending. It prepares them so you don't just walk away abruptly.
Okay, so you're giving them a heads up.
Second, the reason. You need a justification so they don't think you're just bored of them. "I need to go find my friend," or "I need to get back to work," or "I'm going to grab some lunch."
And finally,
The wish. "Have a great evening," or "Enjoy your coffee."
that wish part seems really important.
It is the most important part. It validates the interaction. It leaves the other person feeling good rather than rejected. It turns the exit into a positive moment.
So you aren't running away, you're wrapping it up with a bow. "Great talking to you, I've got to run, have a good day."
Exactly. It's polite, it's firm, and it leaves everyone happy.
We've covered a lot of ground here. Biology, psychology, opening lines, exit strategies. It really changes the perspective on language learning. It feels less about grammar and more about, well, being human.
It does. If you take one thing away from this deep dive, it should be the overarching theme that language is a social tool, not performance art.
I love that distinction. Can you explain that a bit more?
We treat language learning like a piano recital, where if we hit a wrong note, we've failed, and the audience boos. We think we're on stage.
Right, perfection is the goal.
But it's not a recital. It's actually just a hammer or a screwdriver. It's a tool to build a connection. If you build a table, nobody cares if you held the hammer weirdly or if you dropped a nail, as long as the table stands up.
That is a fantastic way to look at it. If I communicate the idea, I win, even if the grammar was messy.
Exactly. And the sources remind us that native speakers are generally not judging you. They usually appreciate the bravery it takes to speak a second language. The flaws you see are usually only visible to you.
So, to wrap this up, your amygdala is a paranoid security guard who needs to be calmed down with affect labeling. The spotlight on you is an illusion. Asking for help actually makes people like you via the Ben Franklin effect. And you can escape any conversation with the signal, reason, wish formula.
That is a pretty good summary.
I want to leave our listeners with a thought based on all this. We talked about how the security guard in your brain, the amygdala, is trying to protect you from a tiger that doesn't exist. It sees a grammar mistake and screams, "Death."
But there is no tiger.
Right. So if the danger is fake, I want to ask our listeners, what is the cost of listening to that alarm? What opportunities for connection, for friendship, or just for a helpful tip about the coffee machine are you missing right now because you're hiding from a false alarm?
That's the real question. Maybe the safest thing you can do, the thing that will actually help you survive and thrive in a new language, is to speak up, even when your voice shakes.
Thanks for diving in with us today. Go out there and test those strategies.
Goodbye, everyone.